Here is a target setting and appraisal form basically. Now basically you as a manager, to manage the performance of your employees, you need to manage the expectations. You need to clearly identify and define the expectations, right? So this form and this template, this tool is going to help you out to nail all of that. This particular tool has actually 5 elements. It starts first with the details about the employee and the job, basically. The second element is about the performance measures, and I will give you more details about that. So basically, let's say you want to put targets for this particular employee, but also you want that employee to demonstrate particular behaviors, and you're going to assess that employee against those behaviors. So you would like to give weightages also an importance to the behavior side. The third element is about the target. So you need to have very smart goals here. You don't want just to have general goals. Can be easily challenged if they are implemented, if they are achieved or not. So they have to be very smart. They have to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely bound. The fourth element is the behavior side. Again, what are the certain behaviors you want that employee to possess or demonstrate, and the indicators for that. So how are you going basically to judge and conclude about whether that employee has actually demonstrated those behaviors or not? So you need to have clear indicators. So now let me give you more details about this form and how you basically fill it up and use it properly. So starting with the details about the employee, let's say we have Ahmed Muhammad, who is a production manager. This is employee code, and basically we've decided to set a KPI, set a target setting and appraisal for the month of February. So it's a monthly target setting. This could be quarterly, it could be monthly, it could be weekly, it could be every 6 months, it could be 1 year. It's totally up to the performance cycle you have. And of course, the shorter the cycle, the better. Say this is monthly, and this person reports to the COO, Chief Operating Officer. Now we move to the most important part of all of this tool, which is to basically decide on the performance measure. Say for example, this is just a standard. Again, it's your call, it's your business, it's your circumstances, your condition. You need to customize this to fit your situation. A general rule of thumb, you'd like to assess employees against target and against behaviors. And why is that? Some employees might achieve their targets, but maybe they destroy the culture. Maybe they destroy relationships inside or externally with the external stakeholders. Maybe they achieve short-term goals, but they harm the long-term goals. And that's why you need to have behaviors in place. You would like to motivate, encourage those employees to demonstrate certain behaviors because you want to promote a culture that has this and that. So that's why you need to have behaviors to be well defined there. Now, what we are suggesting that you basically give weightages to those targets against behaviors according to the levels of the employees. Say, for example, the executives levels, if you have chiefs, GMs, senior managers, maybe 7% on target, 30% you will give weightages to the behavior side. Managers. Maybe for manager, 60% on the target versus 40% on behaviors. And see, for example, if you have like maybe technicians or helpers or drivers, maybe less on targets and more on behaviors. And why is that? Because maybe it's very hard for you to assign particular KPIs and targets to those helpers or drivers or technicians. So what do? You focus more on the behaviors than the target. Maybe they have no control over the targets. Maybe their job requires them just to show up and attend. And it's quite hard to differentiate between performances and to say whether that employee has actually achieves or hits the target. So maybe you want to give only 10%. Maybe you decide to go for 0. And maybe you give it 100% on behavior. So again, it's all about the situation you have. If you have an engineer or an accountant, for example, maybe you want to give 50% on target, maybe 50% on behaviors. You might say, you know what? Maybe I want to give 60% on target and maybe 40% on behaviors. Again, it's all about you. It's all about the situation. It's all about the culture you want to have and so forth. These are just rule of thumbs. All right, done with that. Make sure that the green ones, that what needs to be actually filled by the supervisor. The yellow one needs to be basically filled by the supervisor during the evaluation itself. So these greens, the green zone has to be actually filled before the evaluation. It's actually on the target setting phase. The yellow is actually when the time of the evaluation, right? You have here the rating scales. So say, for example, someone achieved 5, that's outstanding. And these are the percentages, the range basically. So 150% is the highest score versus anything below 70% is actually unsatisfactory at the rating of 1. All right, so at the target setting, you come to this green zone and you start to populate and basically identify the SMART goals in here. And you do that in alignment, in agreement with the employee, him or herself. So that goal has to be very specific, has to be SMART. An example in here, produce 2,000 pipes according to the company's specifications with a maximum of 5% defectiveness. Very, very SMART goal. It can be measured, it can be achieved, it has time bound because we are talking about the month of February, basically, and so forth. Now, this is the interesting part. The target itself, it has a weightage of 60%. And why is that? Because Ahmed is a production manager. Ahmed is a production manager, and basically we are talking about this particular level. So 60% on target, 40% on behaviors. So 60% on target, that's the weightages, versus 40% on behaviors. So whatever rating you have in here is going to be actually be a function of from the 60%, not from 100%. All right, let's say I assign for this particular SMART goal 40% weightages. I am giving it a high importance. And if this employee actually achieves basically 5 out of 5, that is going to increase the likelihood of having a high performance rate. If it is 1, or if it's 2, again, it's going to basically ending up with a very bad rating scale. So then you assign those SMART goals, you assign weightages so that employee understands the importance of those goals. You know, it has to be So once done with the basically the targets, you go to the behaviors. So for production manager, it has to be 40%. The weightage is for the behavior side. And this one is all about the culture you want to have in the company. Say, for example, you put quality as a very, very important element of the culture you have. So you would like to assess those employees against quality. Now you need to have indicators. So for you to say that that employee has actually demonstrated a high level of quality behavior, what are the indicators? So you might say high level of work standards are set, others are encouraged to follow them, performance and behaviors against clear standards and deadlines are monitored. So that's a way for you to manage expectations, but also when you assess that employee, you have indicators basically. And then you put weightages for that behavior. And again, you need to have multiple behaviors and multiple related indicators and related also weightages for that. They all have to be equal of 100 at the end of the day, you know. There is here basically a behaviors dictionary. Again, these are just example, but you need to have your own behaviors dictionary as soon as you have them ready for you. Say, for example, on the quality side, what do you mean by quality? You know, what do you mean by quality behavior? It means this one. But again, we have different levels in the organization. If we have individual contributors, we have technicians, we have engineers, we would expect them to behave in certain manner. But then we have higher expectations from those who are in more senior levels, let's say managers, maybe executive senior managers, they have more basically expectations. And all of that has to be clear and set and well understood by the employees. And that behavior dictionary has to be identified and used in the target behaviors settings. All right. So once you do that, you agree with the employee, and this has to be signed by both, by the employee and the manager. Everybody acknowledges basically the goals that are set. Everybody understands the expectations and so forth. Once that is done, we are done with the target setting. We come at the day of the evaluation, right? And what we do, we come to the yellow zone and we start to rate that employee. Say, for example, for this particular goal, that employee has actually achieved produced those 2,000 pipes according to the company specification, and we've got something like only 2% effectiveness. Wow, that means it's an outstanding performance. So we would like to give that employee a rating of 5. And if we do that, it accumulates with the other ratings, and at the end of the day, it gives you the overall target score. We do the same with the other goals, and then we move to the behaviors. And again, we do the same. Say, for example, in terms of quality, maybe 4, right? And then again, it accumulates the final score. And then at the end of the day, we have the percentages for the behaviors, and we have in here the total grand for the whole score, combining both the targets and the behaviors. And it tells you at the end of the day whether that employee actually meets the requirements, or actually exceeded the requirements, or actually exceptionally being an outstanding there. So again, it does all of that for you. So that's in brief